Hello everyone. In this topic, we'll discuss about Azure Resource Manager and ARM templates. ARM or Azure Resource Manager is the deployment and management service for Azure. Whenever we use ARM templates to create, update, and delete resources, all the requests, it can be via portal, it can be via the CLI, the Azure CLI, or the PowerShell. All the requests will be sent via the API. It will be sent through the Azure Resource Manager, and the resources are provisioned inside the cloud. The commands can be create, update, and delete. So all these commands are sent via the API using Azure Resource Manager. Let us see what are the benefits of Azure Resource Manager. We can manage the infrastructure through templates. It's a JSON template which is used to deploy resources. We'll be able to deploy, manage, monitor resources as a group. Let us say, for example, I wanted to create a 3-tier application, and my application is a 3-tier application which has web tier and app tier and the database tier. So I can deploy all the resources which are required for the 3-tier application as a group. I can combine all the resources which are required for the 3-tier application in a group, and the format of the file will be JSON format, and this will be deployed via the ARM template. Once I have deployed the resources for my environment, let us say this is for my development environment, I can repeat the same process deploying for my production environment as well. I can reuse the template for my production environment because I have the confidence, since I have used the template to create the resources, which is the ARM template to create all the resources for the 3-tier application. Now I have the confidence, then I'll be able to use the same template to create the resources for my production environment as well. And we will be able to define the dependencies between resources so they are deployed in the correct order. And I'll be able to apply the RBAC, which is nothing but the access control. Since I am deploying the resources onto the Azure cloud, if I have the RBAC, which is nothing but the role-based access control, if I have permission to create the resources, only then I'll be able to create the resources. Even though I am creating the template, if I don't have the permission to create the resources, I will not be able to create the resources. We will be able to define the tags and use the tags for the resources what we are going to create. And these tags will be useful whenever we wanted to view the cost for group of resources. Infrastructure as a code. The ARM template itself is an infrastructure as a code. This template will be in JSON format. Infrastructure as a code, where we can manage the entire infrastructure using the code. So we write the code in JSON format, we will be able to deploy the resources onto the Azure cloud. If I wanted to run single commands, I'll be able to use the management tools. We have the tools Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell. The way these tools works is different. These tools will create the resources in serial fashion. So it will create one after another. So it will create, I need to define the resources in a correct order. If I wanted to create a virtual machine, if there is no virtual network, then I need to start with the virtual network. I need to start with the resource group, then virtual network, then subnet, and then virtual machine. So I need to define all these resources in a correct order. Whereas when I use the ARM template, there is no need for me to mention the resources in correct order. The infrastructure as a code, which is ARM template, will provision the resources in the correct order. And all the resources will be provisioned in parallel. Unlike the CLI tools, wherein the resources will be provisioned in serial. Whenever we use infrastructure as a code, the resources will be deployed in parallel. If I wanted to create 50 instances of the same resources, all the 50 instances are created at the same time. So this is the difference between serial and parallel. So when you use infrastructure as a code, the resources will be deployed in parallel. Let us see what are the benefits of ARM templates. Deploy Azure infrastructure declaratively. Declare what resources you wanted to deploy. Use the same code for development or test environment in consistent manner. Azure Resource Manager orchestrates the deployment of interdependent resources so they are created in the correct order. Even if you have not mentioned in a correct sequence of order of the resources, ARM template is going to create these resources in a correct order. We will be able to break the templates into smaller, understandable, easy to read code so others don't have to worry looking at the code. We will be able to nest these modular templates. Along with the code, we can easily include PowerShell scripts or CLI scripts. Since ARM template uses JSON language, you need to define all your resources and variables in JSON format. If you are not coming from a coding background, it will be very complex to understand the JSON format, because of which Microsoft has developed another tool called as Bicep. Let us see what Bicep is. Bicep is a domain-specific language, also called as DSL. Bicep is simplified to use with ARM templates. It is not complex as JSON template. It is very easy. If you understand basics of Bicep, not like JSON, you will be able to deploy the resources very easily. Using Bicep, it is very easy if you understand the basics. Platform. It is specific to Azure Cloud Services. Let us see what are the benefits of Bicep. Bicep will support all the preview and general available versions for Azure services. Bicep uses simple syntax compared to JSON template. Bicep files are more concise and easier to read. We don't require programming languages to understand the Bicep. Like ARM template, we can use the same code for development and test environment in a repeatable manner. We will be able to deploy all the resources using single command instead of multiple commands using Bicep. Resource Manager orchestrates the deployment of interdependent resources so they are created in correct order. We can break the Bicep code into manageable parts by using modules. These modules deploy set of related resources. If I wanted to use the Bicep, there is a Bicep CLI which I wanted to install. So this is available for Windows, Linux, and also for the Mac operating system. So I need to install the Bicep CLI on these platforms, and I need to install Azure CLI or Azure PowerShell. I can even add an extension if I am using the Visual Studio Code. There is an extension for the Bicep. Bicep is an open source. So this is an open source language. We can install the extension for the Bicep using VS Code. Then we will be able to use the VS Code to write the Bicep template. Bicep is not complex as ARM template. We need to understand basics of Bicep to deploy and manage resources on Azure Cloud. Thank you for watching the video. If you like the content, please subscribe and share the video. Thank you and take care.